Well, a piece of biofuels legislation is getting a second chance on Capitol Hill. It's a welcome move for ethanol advocates who say it would base future industry policy on sound science and not on speculation. President and CEO of the Renewable Fuels Association, Geoff Cooper, joins us now for more on this. Geoff, thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about this GREET Act. And I know it's been reintroduced by Senators John Thune and Amy Klobuchar. Give us a little background on this legislation and what it aims to do.
Well, good morning, Suzanne, and thanks for having me. And yes, we were very excited to see reintroduction of the Adopt GREET Act is the name of the legislation earlier this week. And really what the bill does is it requires the Environmental Protection Agency and other federal agencies to use the latest data, latest science, latest modeling when they analyze the carbon footprint of ethanol and other renewable fuels. And that's important because so many regulations today, whether it's the Renewable Fuel Standard or some of these new tax credits that came out of the Inflation Reduction Act, are based on the carbon footprint of these biofuels. And so we need accurate tools for measuring the carbon impacts to ensure that these regulations are implemented correctly. And unfortunately, we've seen in the past these agencies using outdated information, old data, old models, and lots of assumptions that just don't reflect what is truly happening in agriculture today. So we're very pleased to see this legislation. We're hopeful that it gets across the goal line before the end of this year.
I was going to ask you, Geoff, where as far as the process for this legislation, obviously there's a lot going on right now on Capitol Hill.
There's a lot going on, and there's a lot not going on Capitol Hill these days. But this legislation does have broad bipartisan support, I think, as you saw when it was introduced. I mean, who could be against using sound science for policy and regulatory decision-making? So we're hopeful that if there is an opportunity for some legislation to move before the end of this year, that would be attached or tacked on to some piece of must-pass legislation, because we know there are some big decisions coming from this administration around, implementation of the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Tax Credit and other tax credits that came out of the Inflation Reduction Act. And so we think it's paramount. It's critically important that we get this legislation done before some of those big decisions come out.
Hey, Geoff, before I let you go, we've been talking here on RFD-TV about the governors in Arkansas and Oklahoma backing an oil industry effort to delay year-round sales of E15 in 8 Midwestern states. If you'd like to comment on this.
Yeah, I would like to comment on it. We're not understanding why the governors of Arkansas and Oklahoma think they need to get involved in this. Neither one of them are among the 8 states that have petitioned EPA for year-round sales of E15. So in our view, you've got the governors of Arkansas and Oklahoma asking EPA to deny petitions from other governors. And I think it's kind of crazy for the governor of one state to be trying to influence something that another state wants to do. So we saw those and kind of shook our heads. We're hopeful that EPA doesn't pay much attention to those concerns that are clearly coming from the oil industry.
Geoff, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your insight on this. President and CEO of the Renewable Fuels Association, that's Geoff Cooper.